Hello and welcome to the 85th gathering of the Adventure Party on this, the 19th of November, 2017. I'm your party leader, Brad Ludwig. We ask that you peace tie your swords, holster your blasters, and make sure you have a little bit of stuff written up about the characters you are playing before you are gathered at the meeting table. Let's see. This particular meeting of the Adventure Party is brought to you by our Patreon partners: Brian Jensen, Amy Cantwell, Amy Frost, Growly Bear, Jackie Hearn, and JF DeBow. And we'll tell you a little bit more later on how you can become a partner with Galactic Netcast Network. As always, our second in command here, that's Glenn Bittner.
Hey, I know that guy.
I bet you do. He is a movie reviewer on the YouTube show The B-Movie Bunker, and he is the creator of the RPG Mistrunner. How you doing?
I am pretty good. I finished my... Well, I didn't finish, but I hit the word total goal for NaNoWriMo already.
Nice. And it's, what, 3/4 of the way through the month?
Yeah.
Boom.
Now, everything I've written, absolute garbage. Oh my gosh, it's some of the worst writing I have done in years. But
well, you know,
saying is you got to do what, that million bad words or whatever. I mean, I made some real inroads into that this time.
But the nice thing about it is you can go through there and pan for some gold, maybe. Clara, you know, get the whole point of it is to do the thing. And you're not gonna write a book unless you do the thing. And that's and you did the thing.
You know, unless you're JF DeBow, we'll just...
Well, you know, there are some who have done so much of the thing that they might come up with something a little bit different in their attempts at that November tradition that you enjoy so much. We do a roundtable thing here where we discuss your gaming review. We're not going to do gaming news because nothing in the news really struck me as interesting, and I'm a grown-ass man. If I say I don't want to, we're not gonna. So there you go. And then we're going to talk about... that's how I roll.
Look at the big balls on Brad.
I know. That is how I roll, sir. But you had a great idea for us to discuss character histories.
Yeah.
And, you know, character histories are one of those things where it's great to have something to fall back on and to get a good handle on the character that you're attempting to play. Some people really have a hard time making a character history. Others could write literal volumes on the character. And, you know, something as big as War and Peace is probably not needed when you're, you know, just running a Pathfinder or D&D or whatever. But it's good to have kind of a loose idea, at least, of what your character's about, and maybe some goals, just to be able to get your head into that headspace and play that character. So we kind of are going to talk about how much is too much. You know, how to do at least the basics, and try not to bog things down. Well, we'll get into it. It's nice to have wiggle room when you create a character, and we'll get into that as well. So first up, though, we're going to start with your review of something that, just by the name alone, sir, has me very intrigued, especially with Pacific Rim 2 coming out. What you got?
I got Kaiju Crush. This is a monster stomping game. as in you are monsters stomping cities. What could possibly be better than that? Well, the answer is nothing. If you have an answer, it should be nothing. Otherwise, you're wrong. This is from Fireside Games. It is for 2 to 4 players. Plays in about 45 minutes. Runs about $30. And it's brought to us by Tim Armstrong and Justin DeWitt. It's fairly light. It uses, you're going to have a city made of basically a grid of city tiles. These tiles are going to have different types of things on them. They might be energy ones. They might be traffic ones, stuff like that. Some will be multiples of the same thing or of different things. And you're going to score points when you stomp these tiles with your monster. Each player has a monster. Each player's monster will have a special ability. Your movement is determined randomly by a card given you at the beginning. So, for example, there's stomp, meaning you can just stomp a tile, anyone that is horizontal or vertical from where you are. So you'd have 4 options where you can move. There's charge, where you simply shoot forward 3 spaces and destroy the tile at the end of the 3 spaces. There's also, so every player has one of those. There's also a shared movement tile, or card, as it were, where on your turn you can either do your normal movement that's in front of you, or you can swap it with the shared one and take that one and use that one instead. So you'll always have 2 options of how you can move. The game will end when no monster can legally move anymore, because you can't go through spaces that have already been stomped. There's also combat between monsters, so you'd be fighting each other. And when that happens, you play a game of Fire Breath, Claw Tail, Kick, and Spikes. So very much like Rock, Paper, Scissors, Lizards, Bach. Except that you have cards you're going to use for this. You're going to draw a hand of cards, and each turn you're going to play a card from your hand for one of these things. Best of 5. Whoever wins the fight. If you're standing next to each other in tiles adjacent, doesn't really do much for you. You win the fight. Great. There was I forget what the advantage of that was, but the big thing is that if you go onto someone's tile and fight them, you can take that tile away from them, because every time you stomp a tile, you put down one of your cards saying, I stomped this, this is mine. And you can take that away from people. Every monster has a special ability. One guy, he gets to draw an extra card in fights. The guy I played, he won on Fire Breath, and I think it was Claw attacks. So if you had a tie, he would win. You know, if I played Fire Breath, you played Fire Breath, I would win that tie. But it's a fun little light game. And I mean, 45 minutes, that's if you're really thinking about your what you want to do. Scoring simply comes down to you score the tiles that you crushed, and then there'll be some special scoring that'll happen as well that's drawn randomly at the start of the game. So it could be you get a point for every tile long your largest single section of controlled territory is, or you get special points if you have the most energy cards destroyed. So nice little fun light game.
Nice.
Yeah.
Huh. I'm curious. Is it anything like, or something akin to like King of Tokyo or King of New York?
Not really. I mean, other than the fact that, you know, you're giant monsters fighting.
And that's where the similarity ends.
Pretty much, because I mean, there's some randomness in what you draw for your cards for fighting, but I mean, you could go a whole game and not fight another monster at all. That's wholly possible.
Okay.
It almost happened the first time I played. I think there were 2 fights, and one was just simply because let's see how fighting works.
Oh, sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that is wholly possible. Although in a tighter game, you're going to want to fight some, because you're going to want to try to steal those territories away from someone else. Because that can be, it can be a matter of In the case of mine, it was a matter of I would have had 4 points for my longest section of territories, or 8 points, which is a fair chunk of points in this game. So,
okay,
yeah.
Huh. And again, how much does it approximately retail for?
$30.
Oh,
yeah.
That's very, very reasonable for a 45-minute game for 2 to 4 people.
Yeah. It is.
Has there been any talks of expansions or?
Not that I have heard yet.
Okay.
But it's from Fireside Games. They did all the Panic games, Castle Panic, Dead Panic, Star Trek Panic. They tend to, on a lot of those types of games, they tend to come up with some expansions. I wouldn't be surprised if something does come out for this as an expansion.
Because it looks like, you've got the 4 monsters. I'm sure that you could think of, like a blob type monster, and there's room to expand for sure. So.
Oh, absolutely. There's always room for more monsters. There's always room for more kaiju.
Very, very nice. All right. That game again is Kaiju Crush. 2 to 4 players, about 45 minutes, and approximately $30. All right. Thanks for that, Glenn. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. You hear us talk a lot about DieHardDice.com. Todd and his team are doing something pretty big for Black Friday, which is coming up real quick. And it starts at midnight, actually 12:01. This is Mountain Standard Time. Okay, so that would be, what, 1 hour behind us? Because you and I are in the Central Time Zone.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting, we keep talking about, hey, you get 10% off if you use the coupon code Adventure Party, all one word. But for Black Friday at dieharddice.com, you get 2 options. All right. Take note here.
What?
Yeah. You can get 15% off your total order if you use 2017 discount, 2017 discount, all one word. And boom, that's it. You get 15% discount. Or you can take door number 2 and you could get a freebie if you spend over $35. Okay. Now, you can use that same code checking out with 27 freebie. If your grand total, if your grand total comes up to $50, you get an instant $15 off, making the freebie free. Now, what are the freebies? Well, they've got a set of metal dice that, while amazing, they noticed that there was something, I don't want to say it's a flaw. It's an unintended effect that happens when you roll these dice together. Now, if you're doing, if you're playing, say, D&D, stuff like that, the only thing that you might, maybe not so much D&D, but a game where you would roll percentiles, the 2 10-siders, when you shake them together, okay, or if you have them in a bag together, let's say, over time, these metal dice, which have some heft to them, the finish, which is kind of a matte finish, will take kind of some dings, and it doesn't always chip the paint off, they're saying. It just marks it, and it looks, it's something that some people weren't a fan of necessarily, but if you like interesting looking dice. Over time, this would definitely make those dice look interesting. And they're like a midnight blue with gold numbers on them. Okay. You can get a random metal set, a full set of metal dice, but you have no control over what color they're going to be. All right. You could get a blind bag, they call it, with up to $35 worth of random dice and fun surprises. You could get one of their folding trays, which either the hexagonal, the rectangular, which Ness and I both have, or they now are offering a red folded dice tray. So when you close it, it's got a red kind of felt interior when you snap it together. And it looks absolutely gorgeous. So a lot of different choices here. And so their Black Friday sale, which is November 24th, kind of a big deal. You can either get 15% off using the 2017 discount, or if you have up to $50 worth of stuff and you use the 27 freebie, you get an instant 15% or $15 off, and then you get to choose one of six different freebies. One of them being the random metal set. And other stuff. So I invite you, go to dieharddice.com. They have a link to their Black Friday deals, and you can take a look at all the details there. Well worth it. Well worth it. We keep saying about how good a quality stuff that they have. I swear by them. And I think that if you give them a shot, you would swear by them as well. So again, dieharddice.com. All right, let's do our Kickstarter spotlight. And last time we met, we talked about the game Full Moon Jacket, which an amazing premise that you brought to us, and some good news here, it looks like. What do you got?
All right, Full Moon Jacket. There is 66 hours to go, people. You can still get in on this project that has funded. They were looking for $46,243, and they are at $47,479. So they have funded.
Yes, they have.
So if you ever wanted, you're ever sitting around saying, were there werewolves in Vietnam? The answer apparently was yes. Yes, there were. And now you get to be Vietnam soldiers and you get to fight huge waves of werewolves. This is a good thing. So you get a bunch of werewolf minis, you get some soldier minis, and you just have a raucous good time killing werewolves. What more do you want? I mean, seriously, people, what more do you want?
Well, I've got a list.
Okay. But this should be on it.
Yes, it should. The premise alone is kind of cool. And the miniatures for this set are ridiculously beautiful. I'm going to do if you're checking us out on YouTube, I'm going to do a screen share right now so you can take a look at these miniatures. They are ridiculously
delightful.
Well sculpted. If you have ever thought, gosh, I really want an army of werewolves for something, this is the game for you. There's 42 miniatures in this set. The vast majority of them are all werewolves. Absolutely gorgeous. And what was it? 55 pound. Oh no, that's the one that's gone. 65 pounds, or approximately $86. Now, there is 12 pounds worth of shipping, which may equate to about $20.
Thereabouts.
Kind of doing a rough exchange, as it were. Still, that's a good quality game for $106. Yeah, it's on the high end of what we talk about as being a good bargain for a game or a good deal for a game. But again, A, it's subjective. B, it depends on what they put in it. And for the set of 42 miniatures, and most of them being werewolves, like I said, if you're playing any game where you have werewolves that appear in the game, you can reuse these for that game as well. They are absolutely beautifully modeled miniatures. And damn. They have done the thing. They have met their goal. It's going to happen. The estimated delivery, they say, is October 2018, which would be, next year, right around Halloween, I'm going to guess. That'd be a perfect time to get it out there. So there you go. Midnight Moon. I'm sorry, Midnight. I've got the Midnight Dice on the brain. Full Moon Jacket is what I meant to say. All right.
I know what you meant.
Thank you. At least somebody does. So that's where that particular spotlight is from last time. This time, I found, and I just love this word that I'm about to say, oubliettes.
Oh, yes. Good word.
The game Oubliettes, Sorcery, and Reavers. And their tagline is an RPG which bridges the gap between the speed and simplicity of the original Seed and OSR games and more modern design sensibilities. So, first off, what's an oubliette? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. An oubliette is a trap that when you're in it, you access it from the ceiling. The trap door is in the ceiling. So basically you drop down into this. And it's it's
where they put someone to forget them.
Yeah, essentially. They're technically, I mean, they're underfoot. They're underground. You dump them in there and that's it. And there they stay. So for this particular game, I'm trying to find a good write-up. Which has the setting. The image that they have for this thing is kind of ridiculously creepy. It's like a very Cthulhu-esque, multi-eyed, long-tongued, yucky-looking creature. This thing. Now, the good news is they had a goal of $1,000. Now you're probably about to say, man, that's not a whole lot of money. This is going to be done in PDF only. They're not doing any hardcover, softcover books. They're doing it strictly as a PDF once it's ready to go. And they're saying the nice thing about it is 99% of it is done. So you're going to get this thing pretty quickly, which is good. They're saying March of 2018. They'll have for this a grimoire, a bestiary, enchanted items. Let's see. That's the big thing here. The amazing thing about it is the page count that they're looking at is 110 pages for this thing. They're saying they're going to have 90 spells in this game, 55 monsters, it's really kind of it's a system that is very pared down. It doesn't have a whole lot of fluff to it. It's kind of a get up and go, really like a return to old school D&D. That's really what it looks like to me, like first edition type stuff. And it appealed to me, one, because the price, I mean, to get in on this, $15. And you get a PDF of the core rules, a PDF of all the unlocked stretch goals. You can have your name put in the book, either your name or epithet, whatever, like your nom de plume or whatever. And you get a 7 dice set of purple RPG dice from Easy Roller Dice, they're saying, which are themed to the OS&R. So there you go. I mean, and it has everything that D&D is. Your race, your class. Like I said, it's really, really like stripped down D&D. No fluff. So if you're into something like that, this really may appeal to you. So I wanted to let you know about Oubliettes, Sorcery, and Reavers, which is this particular meeting's Kickstarter spotlight. Speaking of things to spotlight, I lost my page here. Here we go.
All right.
I'm going to edit that in post. All right. Hey, if you enjoy the Adventure Party and would like to do more than just subscribe, please consider becoming a partner with us. Now, you remember at the beginning of this, I listed off the names of people who have become partners with the Galactic Netcast Network. And all it takes is clicking on our Patreon link, which you can find in gncasts.com/support. And we have different levels of support that you can give us. There's a $1, $3, or $5 a month. And you could get your name mentioned on our show. You can receive a bonus podcast, which is done every month by Peter Fisher. Or you can have a whole message read by one of us. Now, we have multiple shows in the network, not just Adventure Party. There's the Alien Invasion. There's a Podcast of Terror. There's a number of different shows. And all you have to do is let us know where you'd like to have your particular message read. If all the shows, whatever, just let us know. And all it takes is going to gncasts.com/support. And you can join the team. All right. We are going to discuss character history. Now, there are folks who can sit down and come up with a concept for a character and just dream something up, write it down, and they could write a list of bullet points. Some people want to write little stories or vignettes that kind of illustrate what the character is like in interactions with other people. And there are some people who look at a blank piece of paper and go, I have no idea what to do for a history for a character.
Yeah, I've seen somewhere it's basically just write Tom. There's my character history.
Yeah.
Just your name? Yeah.
Now, my fiance, Anessa, is a person who has a hard time creating a character. And some of that is she only started by playing like D&D 5th edition. So, I'm sorry, no, 4th edition. I apologize. So she started with 4th ed, and she was so new to it. She had a very hard time, first off, coming up with the character, because it's kind of daunting the first time you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have an interest, and then it's like there's all this fine print of, oh, now you have to choose a race. Oh, now you have to choose a class. Do you want to, you know, come up with plans to multi-class? Do you, you know, there's a lot of different things, and some people get very overwhelmed by that. And then if you say, hey, write a little something up about your character, not everybody can do that. I have a feeling it's safe to say you or I could sit down and hammer something out in probably 10 to 15 minutes and feel pretty good about it.
Mm-hmm.
But others don't. Others prefer to spend a few hours and write short novels.
Yeah.
As a person running a game, I can say personally, while I appreciate the novels, and I appreciate the hard work that somebody has put into that, and the thought that's gone into that, and the creativity that's used to spawn that, that's tremendous. But if you're trying to kind of plan a game for a number of people, you really don't necessarily have the time to read a book as well as plan a game. So I guess from where I sit, I enjoy bullet points, or just, you know, like a rough write up about the history of the character, short and sweet, to the point, and I'm good with that. I guess I want to start by asking where you sit on that kind of spectrum of how much is too much and how much is enough and how much is way too much. What are your thoughts?
There are some people who, the amount of history they write, I want to pull them aside. I'm like, you do realize you're level 1, right? You've got, like, you know, the freaking Lies of Locke Lamora written out here. You know, like the three you know, epic length novels. You're level 1. You, like, you know, might have killed like a goblin. That's like your big heroic feat that you've done so far in life. So there are some people who just have these things, and a lot of it is when people are younger. You know, you want to be the badass. You want to be the cool, super awesome, you know, I can do everything fighter guy or wizard or whatever. And it's like, you know, I was the best person at the university ever. I'm like, no, you weren't. You're level 1. So I try to temper people when they try to get out of hand with, they try to make these, you know, unrealistic backstories. I'm like, you have to keep it within reason is my number one rule, is make it realistic. My other one is that you put stuff in there, I'm going to use it. You know, if you say you have a nemesis of some sort, or, you know, like, you know, well, my family was killed by this, you know, roving band of, you know, mercenaries, and this, like, head guy, his name is Clog, and, you know, it's like, I hate him, and it's like, well, guess who's probably going to pop up at some point in your adventures. So I like when I can use stuff like that, where I can make, where I can tailor the adventure a bit more towards specific players. You know, it's not, you're not just going to fight, you know, this bad guy. You're going to fight the dude who killed your, you know, who killed your mom and dad, or, you know, or this is the guy that stole your grandfather's sword. Something like that, where it becomes more personal and you're more invested in it than just simply, oh, cool, the king's gonna give us some gold. So I like when I can use that, which means I need something to work with. I don't penalize a character who can't come up with something. I know, I mean, while it might be easy for me, I mean, I have people who play in some of my groups who just coming up with a name is an absolute agony for them.
Yeah.
And just because it comes super easy to me doesn't mean it comes easy to everyone. So if they can't give me anything, I'm like, just like, give me just one little thing, one thing about your character. Come up with something, you know, a childhood friend or someone who bullied you, or like something about your family history. Like, you know, when my parents came, or when my great grandparents came to this kingdom, you know, that my grandpa fought in, you know, in the Legion or whatever. Just some little thing I can use, so I have something that I can have as your personal background, other than just I am fighter, me have sword. You know, I like that. Now I run a ton of one shots, so character history isn't often as important as far as like using it for setting up future things.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned like it can give some guidance as to how your character would behave in specific situations. If you say your guy's an arrogant jerk, well, then I'm thinking that at some point that's going to pop up. And I have questioned people with some games where I'm like, you wrote this thing about your guy and you aren't that at all. So either we have to decide, is this really what your character history is? Because I will let people change things. And sometimes I will tell people, you got to change these things. Otherwise, I'll be like, hey, you wrote this in there. Use it, man. Go for it. Roll with it. It's your background. It's your history. I mean, I don't let them use it as an excuse. I hate I'm just playing my character as an excuse for doing bad, stupid things. That's not playing your character. You're just you want to be a dick, and you think this gets you out, and it doesn't. And I never let that fly at my tables. But within reason, if you say you're arrogant, by all means, play up arrogant. But I mean, if you write up a character history saying, and your character history simply said, I steal from all my comrades. Well, guess what? You're not going to be playing that character in my group. That's not the type of game I run. I run a game that I want to be fun for everyone. If that's the only way you can have fun, I'm sorry. I'm sure there's a table you could go play at, but it won't be mine. Because that's not fun for anyone else if you're that person.
Yeah.
But yeah, give me something to work. Give me something I can use at some point down the line to kind of personalize things a bit to the characters. That's why I really like some of the current indie stuff I've been running, some of the Apocalypse World stuff, and I just ran what was it now? I'm completely blanking on the name. Oh, The Veil, which is a cyberpunk one. And okay. I did from Evil Hat, I did Blades in the Dark. And they've got these things where you create, when you're making your character, it's like, my character's made. Great. Now you create some kind of relationship you have in some way with other players in the game. In the Veil, you have this stuff called Geary, which is kind of like, you owe favors. You owe Geary to someone has Geary on you, so they can call that marker in, as it were. And it's great because it gives this little, it's built into character creation of this. All right, you're going to have these connections already with these people. And it's cool watching players come up with stuff, because then character creation isn't just now, it's not just I'm making my character, you're sitting in another room, you make your character, and then we just play. Part of the character creation becomes a joint task with this history, because you're making a joint history. So if I'm going to say, I did this thing, like, I pulled you out of a burning car wreck at some point, I need you to agree with that, because I can't make up stuff solely for you. And it's fun watching these players come up with these things, and it's like, oh wait, so like my guy is this, he's dying from this disease, because that was one of the guys. It's called The Dying. He's dying from a disease, and then he's like, so I'm thinking like, you as the construct, I have Geary on you because you're trying to learn from me because of the fact that you don't understand disease, because you can't get one because you aren't a living thing. And you've basically been observing me, and I've been basically telling you what it's like to go through this, dying from this disease. And the guy's like, yeah, that makes sense. And then like one of the guys, oh, and I'm the empath, so I probably have Geary on you because I'm the one that, I'm like your counselor. I'm the one that you talk to on those days when you just don't want to carry on because, this thing is killing you slowly. And it's super fun watching these people come up with this basically joint character history, which I absolutely love because one, it makes it so much more of a cool thing for all the people working together. But then also it gets around the whole, so you meet these guys at a tavern.
Yeah. I got to say, when we were playing Mutant Year Zero, and it looks like we're going to be getting back to it in like a week or two, part of that character creation process is everybody created their characters together at the same table, and everybody kind of picked something that they were interested in but was different from everybody else. So you had a team of people that didn't, step on other people's skills and abilities. But one of the last items that you had was creating a history. Now in Mutant Year Zero, everybody comes from an arc. Sorry. And it is a place where everybody is from. You're from the same arc. Okay. So you run into each other, you know each other. It's a small group of people. So you need to write down, how you know the other people. And then you pick one of those people as like your best friend. So everybody has to kind of create a shared linked, and it's only one sentence. You only have room for one sentence. I mean, that's how brief of a kind of quote unquote history that you need to have written down in this particular game.
Yeah.
Mutant Year Zero. And for the most part, those backgrounds kind of get flushed out in the process of role playing. So you have that kind of foothold, that one piece. And from there, as we've been gaming, we kind of been fleshing out. It's kind of what I was kind of alluding to before, is having that wiggle room. The one issue that can happen is if you write a tome about your character history, you're kind of locking things into place and not really giving your GM the opportunity to try to loop in bits of your past.
Yeah.
Because then you have to retcon things, and that, if anybody reads comics, knows how much of a pain in the ass that is and how awful it can be. So, you got to leave a bit of room to let that character breathe, because you're not telling your story when you're gaming. You are telling a collective story together. And, doing the huge tome sort of, and yes, nobody writes a 800-page thing for a game. Yes, I'm using hyperbole, but it is possible to write 2 or 3 pages and close a lot of doors that can hamper group growth, can hamper possible stories that are being told, can hamper and hamstring a GM from doing some things that could possibly bring in some drama, some background, or the ability to let people flesh out their own background. Because I mean, even myself, when I create a character, it's not until I play that character for, like 4 or 5 sessions where it's like, okay, now I have a really good grasp of how this character feels. Now I could give you a really good idea of what their life was like before.
Mm-hmm.
So, God, having that wiggle room is it's everything. Absolutely everything.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things, like I've been looking at possibly running Villains and Vigilantes 3.0. And the nice thing about it, especially for people that have a hard time making choices, is it gives you tables to kind of roll up powers and, background. Do you come from this dimension? Do you come from another dimension? You get the ability to, if you have a hard time making those choices, these tables will kind of give you a starting point. Maybe you roll something, you go, not so much, but oh yeah, hey, there's a thing that you might be interested in. Just to open some doors to that person's creativity, because creativity is a muscle. If you're not used to using it or you don't use it often, it's hard to just create something on the fly. So having tables like that too can really kind of help people start to ask some of the right questions about who their character is that they're kind of envisioning in their head and how to express that. So I'm not a huge proponent of tables, but there's a time and a place for it. And, if a person is having a hard time figuring out a character, a background for a character, having some tables can really help that process, or at least be a conversation starter, and start that process for them. So
I can see that.
So, I think we really kind of fleshed out where you and I kind of sit on character histories. Can you think of anything else that we might have neglected to mention?
I'm sure I will think of things after we're done.
That's how it goes.
I have to sign off on anyone's character history.
Yeah.
Before I accept it as a GM, and that goes for the shared ones that people are making. Now, I give that a lot more leeway because if it's the whole group who's coming up with something, I can work with that much easier than all of a sudden it's like, oh, I got this one guy who's apparently an all powerful everything. Because now I have to work around that one character, which is a nuisance. If it's the whole group who comes up with something cool, it's like, great, you guys all want to be badasses? All right, we'll all be badasses, and you're going to not like this. Or you will, but you won't, because if you want to be a badass, if you think you're a badass, I'm going to treat you like one. That's how the world's going to treat you. If you go around challenging everyone you come across to fist fights, you're going to challenge someone who you don't want to challenge at some point. So, but that's also why I try to sanity check, for lack of a better term, these character histories, so that way I don't want to set my characters up for failure, but I want to, use what I'm given and make it fun for everybody, not just one dude, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't know anymore. I'm old. I just want to play my games.
There's no shame in that.
Can't think of anything else. Other than, if nothing else, if you're not good at it, practice.
Yeah.
Roll up some characters for fun. I've done that. I still do that from time to time. I just roll up characters just for the fun of it, and I make up characters for games that I might never even play. I've got probably, well, I shouldn't say I'm never going to play D&D 5th edition, but I've got a good dozen 5th edition characters. I've only played with 2 of them.
Yeah.
But I've written them up, and most of them have some little backstory to them. So it's good practice. And it I think the big thing is it leads you down a path to better role play. That's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to be better at this, because if you want to have more fun with this. And one way is, when you become better at something, it becomes more fun.
No, very true. Very true. It kind of goes back to it being a muscle. The more you use it, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
Sorry for the Devo. All right.
Never apologize for Devo.
Well, no, you really shouldn't have to. Yeah, I guess on that note, I think we've covered it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to do a whole tome.
Nice callback. All right, so we're going to wrap things up here. If you would like to chat with the hosts or other listeners of this Galactic Network podcast 24 hours a day, you can go to gncasts.com/signup. We'll add you to our Slack team so you have the ability to interact with us in real time. Again, go to gncasts.com/signup. For more on this podcast, including show notes, contact info, and more, go to gncasts.com/adventure. If you have a question or comment about anything that you've heard on this Galactic Network podcast, email adventure@gncasts.com. Leave a voicemail message or text. This number, 805-328-3966. Again, 805-328-3966. Or you can just go to gncasts.com/contact. We do read, listen to, and appreciate all of your feedback. Please subscribe to this Galactic Network podcast by going to gncasts.com/subscribe. Or you can search iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, or anywhere podcasts are offered, and this YouTube channel, and this particular playlist that this will be appearing on. Also want to give a shout out to Mark Wooldridge from Central Battery Music Works, who is the creator of our theme music. So once again, Glenn, thank you for hanging out with us, chit-chatting about gaming. Where can people find out more about you and Mistrunner?
You can find out more about me. I'm on Facebook with just myself. Also, Mistrunner the RPG, Demon Eater RPG. You can find me at mistrunner.com, guyinabunker.com, on YouTube for the B-Movie Bunker and Guy in a Bunker Productions. And I'm sure somewhere else, Twitter thing, at Guy in a Bunker. Yeah.
There you go. You, sir, are the BFD. Thank you so much for joining the adventure party. May your characters never die and your adventures always be epic. Thank you, and good night. Ha ha.